everybody, Ty here. Hope you all are well. We kind of know the score here at this point. You already know the situation. There is some good news with this upcoming winter storm for the Northeast, which we're going to be talking about in this one. And it's the timing, actually. Sometimes that's always the key factor when it comes to significant weather events, and this will be notable to say the least. However, due to the timing, it does give me hope that this whole day won't be a complete loss here. These areas that get snow that tomorrow night into Thursday morning, it's not going to be that much of a big deal for you guys because, well, this area is used to winter weather. It's the ice that most of us are concerned about. I've also seen a little bit of trending on the convective models where we're leaning a little bit into a wintry mix. Now, the little discrepancy between the global and the convective models doesn't give me the greatest amount of confidence as to what the final outcome would be. But we're going to take a closer look in particular at the ice threat here, because as we all know, if we're looking at snow versus ice, we would rather pick snow for a number of reasons. That being said, how do we end up getting said freezing rain, ice, wintry mix? It usually has a lot to do with the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere here. Towards the surface, typically we're going to be at freezing. It's going to be, let's say, 27, 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Once we get a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, typically what would happen, and this is typically how we get our snow, it only gets colder as we go on. But with instances of freezing rain and mixed precipitation, especially sleet as well to go along with that, towards this level, 850s, which is about at the lowest point about 1,000 feet above our heads, maybe 1,100, we'll end up seeing a little bit of warming occur, and this is exactly what we'll be looking out for as we go through the day here. So as we get into Thursday morning and overnight Wednesday night as well, it's going to be this pocket right here where we end up being above freezing. You'll actually be able to see this on a skew T chart. We'll be able to look at all levels of the atmosphere here. You can see that the precipitation type, or best guess at precipitation type, is freezing rain. Now, at the very bottom of this chart here on the left of your screen, right where we have the cursor, you can see this number right here in the red is our surface temp. The one in the green is our dew point. Right now, you can see that it's just below freezing there. But if you look up, as we go higher up in the atmosphere, these are the heights that we're looking at, 1 to 3 kilometers here. You can easily see that towards these levels we're above freezing at this point. So at that point, because here's our 0 degree line right here, we don't get back into the freezing line until we get closer towards 500 millibars in the atmosphere, which is about 20 or 30,000 feet. So it starts out at snow and it starts to melt at this point. And this is a shallow layer also of warm air too. And with that does lead me to think there could be some convection into play to go along with this, so might have a rare instance of some thunder ice or thunder freezing rain. So very interesting scenario that comes into play there, because usually that could cause an increase in our ice totals, which could be a big problem. But in any case here, right at this level of the atmosphere, I'm going to try to draw this on here. Right about at this level here is where we usually end up seeing those snowflakes begin to melt. And then right before they reach the surface, you can see we go back below the 0 degree line. So if you were to look at the freezing line here on this graph, it's this 0 right here, and you just go straight up. Now it's a crappy straight line, I know, and I apologize. But as you can see right here in this zone is where that snowflake melts and turns back into rain. Then right at the surface we drop off again. But in that case though, one thing that we can almost assure for this area that we looked at over towards western Pennsylvania is that we are very likely to get some freezing rain at some point. Now the ice accretion, of course, is still going to be a question, but in any case though, for this area that we're looking at right here, as I lost my place on here, you can see, especially as we go further into overnight Wednesday night into Thursday afternoon, This little zone kind of spreads out pretty far out to the east, so parts of central Pennsylvania at some point we can expect some freezing rain. Areas a little further off to the east, we're going to start out as snow, but eventually that freezing rain threat does expand to some of you guys. By the time we get into the early afternoon, it does look like we end up seeing potential for maybe all rain at this point. We're going to go ahead and look at that SQT again towards this time frame here. And if we still have any remnant moisture left over, it's most likely going to take the form as rain. And again, that's really the complicated part of this forecast here. However, with this setup here, depending on how far north or south we go, we could still end up having more freezing rain to boot here. But like I said, a lot of models have been disagreeing with it, been in disagreement with one another here. If we were to go ahead and click this QT for another model, we're like right on the edge of 32 degrees here. So literally 1 degree of difference could determine whether we end up getting some freezing rain or just regular miserable cold rain, as some of us like to call it, because really rain at this temperature is no fun for anybody. But I would honestly pick that over freezing rain. But in any case though, over towards this region is going to be a major point of contention as we go throughout the day on Thursday as well. Like I said, areas off to the east, we're still going to be expecting snow at this point, but it's really just a matter of just how this event ends, so to speak. The timing of this event is also going to be kind of hard for me to stream. If possible, obviously since this isn't affecting my area, I might have my hands tied here. But maybe we might stream late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, depending on how things pan out. Best case scenario here. As you can see here, the threat that was over towards the Midwest, while it's still prominent, it's kind of fallen apart here. Some of the global models still have a little something going on here, but attention has definitely shifted a lot more off towards the Northeast at this juncture. So like I said, a lot of questions still to be had here as to what happens towards the Midwest here, but definitely have a lot more confidence in the Northeast. Again, really the final outcome is going to have a lot to do with how that precipitation ends off. If we get more in the way of rain, these totals will probably drop in regards to ice and snowfall accretion for these areas. But in any case though, what we need to be on the lookout for the most in these areas, in particular over towards Pennsylvania and the Virginias here, any areas where we're above 1/10 of an inch ice, that could cause troubles on the roadways. Where we start to get to 2/10 of an inch to 1/4 inch of ice, then the roadways become really treacherous at this point, and then also the threat of power outages come into play as well. And as you can see here on the National Weather Service blend of models, we're still keeping an extra close eye on this region here. Keep in mind that we do have another winter storm that we're going to be watching towards the end of the week to boot behind this. We'll have a video on that and much more tomorrow. But if I were to go ahead and compare models here, pretty good agreement across the board here, even though some of these models are super aggressive with the ice totals here. So at this point, it's still very questionable as to what we could get here. Here's another one of our convective models, but it's far more aggressive here. This is the NAM 3 kilometer. As you can see here, we have up to about 3/10 of an inch, if not more. One place even gets 6/10 of an inch of ice. I do find that a bit preposterous, I can't lie, but it's an interesting signal nonetheless. And then shifting back towards the northwest here, the totals have definitely kind of dropped off here, where at least at one point we were thinking some of these areas could get 1/10 of an inch ice, and this area was a lot larger. It's kind of shrunk over towards northeastern parts of Indiana at this juncture. I think we're going to see scattered snow showers and scattered freezing rain here and there before the system runs out of moisture towards this area, before we end up seeing our resurgence over here towards the northeast. So one more thing that we're going to go ahead and take a look at here, of course, is our snowfall models here. Like I said, not going to be a whole lot in the way for snow for these regions here. It's going to be mainly out towards the northeast where snowfall is going to be a little bit more significant here. We've actually had a bit of a drop off here towards the interior northeast as well, where before we were almost kind of seeing a bit of a bullseye over here, but we're looking towards the east central part of the state where we could see about 3 inches here. Big winner in this one looks to be Maine at this point, where we're dealing with 2 to 4 inches at this point. There's going to be scattered areas, which even include New York City at this point, that could get maybe an inch or two of snow. With the convective energy with this storm system, thunder snow not quite as likely, but if we do end up getting some, which is very much possible at this point, we could get some isolated higher totals. So that being said, we'll have to just see how things pan out with this as well. Other models are a little bit more aggressive here, of course, not really that much of a surprise considering what we saw with the ice totals here. So one last thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to take another look at the timing of when this system arrives here. As you can see, as we go through the day, Wednesday, not a whole lot going on here. By the time we get into Wednesday evening is when we start to see a little bit in the way of wintry precip here. And then this is where things start to get a bit more interesting. It's really overnight tonight, or overnight Wednesday night, excuse me, where we end up seeing the wintry mix here and freezing rain begin to come into play. And then by the time we get towards the morning hours, we're going to see a lot of that begin to clear out, and we're going to kind of shift over towards all snow. Again, question mark will be for this zone is, do we end out as rain? Do we maintain the freezing rain? And how much longer does the precipitation last? That's going to be what determines the final outcome in all of this. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, either way. But that's all I got for you guys, and I will see you very soon. It's Tire Metal Weatherman signing off.